So I'm going to go ahead and create a fake account here. Again, it's very simple. It's just putting in the information of who the applicant is. And then as soon as they register, it drops them right into the entry form. Now, as far as the actual submission processes and the submission workflow goes, this is going to be relatively customizable. So all the content you see in the application forms, the dropdowns and the checkboxes and the text fields, all of that is controlled by you. If I had to guess, we have hundreds of different components and modules that make up our submission processes. So if you think through what I would consider your generic form builders, your jot forms and your survey monkeys and your type forms, Reviewr can do all that and then some. And it's really that and then some where I think we really excel. Collecting information is not hard, doing something with it is. And so kind of the main thing I want to walk through here are some of the main components or elements I think take our submission experience to the next level for both the applicants, but also for the review committees and for the admin. So what we're looking at here is a very dummy data submission form. One of the nice things about Reviewr is what I call adaptive workflows. So what's going to end up happening is as people are interacting with your submission processes or submission forms, based off of the answers and the information they put into the platform, different things can happen. So a lot of things come into play and some common use cases. So if it's an award program, maybe you have them pick award categories and then based on their answer, specific questions are appearing. A lot of our scholarship clients will bake in eligibility criteria, or even grants will do eligibility criteria. In fact, they do full-blown eligibility surveys. So a series of questions may actually say, hey, based off of your answers and your responses, these are the scholarships that you're actually eligible for. So one is that we're not wasting people's time making them fill out a bunch of questions that A, aren't relevant to them, but also B, is we're also helping them kind of identify opportunities based off of the form logic that they wouldn't even been aware of in the first place. And then on the back end, which we will look at, there's some magic happening. So in this use case, if I apply to the Merlin Award or to the Nobel Prize, not only is it going to display questions relevant to that category, but it's also going to drop me into a bucket with all the other applicants who chose that same category. So now at that point, we can have different dates and deadlines. We can have different review committees. We can be evaluated on different types of criteria. All sorts of things, become available. We can do things like that. Now, as far as the form elements themselves go, Reviewr doesn't have, again, everything from drop downs to checkboxes to text entry to essays. In this use case, we've got some built-in character limitations, some countdown tools, but really the bread and butter of Reviewr is complex data collection. So not just information about the person, but also one is the private information, so data and security, so the ability to have encrypted information like social security numbers, obviously a SOC compliant companies that we have all of the proven data security infrastructure in place for you, but also things like file uploads. So within Reviewr, we can take in, ballpark about 100 different types of file uploads. And the best part about that, which we will look at also from an admin perspective, is how do you access the file? So every single document that gets uploaded to Reviewr can actually be embedded into the platform. So what I mean by that is when admins come in or review committees come in, and they're actually physically looking at a file, they can view it in Reviewr embedded in the window. So they can side by side leave notes and do scorecards and leave their commenting in their tools. So there's no need to actually download stuff and then go use third-party platforms like Word documents and Microsoft Office and have to come back. Again, the idea is to kind of take every element that makes the life cycle of the program and keep them in one centralized place. I also want to introduce a brand new feature that we have that's extremely powerful called Supplemental Forms, which gets used a couple different ways. So one really great use case would be things like reference requests or transcripts. We have a whole nother video on this topic on our website, and I can send that to you if you have any questions. But the best part about that is that within this workflow, very few reference letters are actually being submitted by the applicant themselves. They come from the reference. I've never seen a negative written reference being submitted, but it has a very private process around it. With that said, that makes managing those external documents or things like transcripts extremely challenging because now you've got a bunch of data coming in from external sources that you have to pair up with where it belongs. It also makes the follow-up and the reminder process extremely challenging as well because we don't know how many of these references have been requested, by who, what stage they're at, have they been started, are they submitted, etc. So in Reviewr, we have a process called Supplemental Forms. And what happens is you can actually put in like the name and email address of the person submitting that reference, and it actually sends them a notification through email and a link. And when they click on it, it actually brings them to the reference form to upload. And then as soon as they submit it, in real time, it's added automatically back to the applicant's profile. But but stays hidden from the applicants. They can see which references have been requested, who's done it, who hasn't done it, so they can send the reminders, but they can't view the physical content within it. So really powerful feature to collect external data and merge it with the original source. Oftentimes it's also used as a way to manage nominations about a nominee and things like that. Again, I don't want to get too deep into that today. We actually have a whole nother video about the reference feature, as well as a shift in the industry that we've seen away from doing reference letters and instead doing reference templates. So if you're interested, check that out. But again, really powerful feature of collecting external data and then merging it together. So I'm going to go ahead and pause there. Again, there's so many elements that make up a Reviewr application process. At the end of the day, we work with you to kind of define what your data requirements and what your goals are. And we make sure that we not only get it built into Reviewr in a format that makes sense, but also can be reported on down the road. Some of the more small things, again, being that it is a profile-centric process, it allows applicants to save, they can log out, they can come back later, send some confirmation emails, they get thank you pages. So there's full kind of transparency and visibility on where they're at kind of in the grand scheme of things. So at a high level, that's the main ins and outs of the submission process. Again, a whole lot more can go into this, but I just want to touch on that today. So the next thing that we're going to look at is going to be the administrator command center and some of the tools that you will be using to manage the logistics of these different types of programs.